You are now tuned in to iArt Asheville Radio. Thanks for listening, y'all. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for checking out this fun new project I'm calling iArt Asheville. Maybe you've had the time to listen once or twice before, but maybe it's your first time. Either way, here's a quick little rundown of what you can expect from the show. So I absolutely love art in all its various iterations, and I think that creative forms of expression is one of the most important things that we have access to in our human experience. Everything that we have now is a culmination of all the great creatives and the makers of the past. And thinking in ways that are transformative comes from the fundamental inclination for wonder and curiosity about all things in life. For over a decade now, I've been practicing visual arts, painting, and illustration, and I've really found pleasure in the journey of trying to develop a style that is uniquely my own and where I fit in this world of contemporary art. And through the years of my interacting with so many creatives, I've noticed an inclination for curiosity and wonder in topics that most people would consider unpopular or fringe or esoteric. Now, these are the kinds of things that really light my brain up, be it spirituality, astrology, metaphysics, quantum physics, crystals, conspiracies, fairies, UFOs... You know, all that crazy hippy-dippy new age stuff. Yeah, the weirder the better. That's the kind of thing that I like to get into in a deep conversation. And it's almost as if creatives can find themselves on a similar wavelength of thought or ideas. It's almost a prerequisite, it seems, for creative endeavors, akin to a problem solver, if you will, in the way that their method of thinking is structured. This is why I think an artist is one of the most interesting people you can talk to. So, after many years of travels and leaving a trail of paint behind me everywhere I went, I wound up in sweet little old Asheville, North Carolina, nestled in the Appalachian Mountains, immersed in so much natural beauty and saturated with so many creatives who call this place home. What is it about this place that draws so many of us here? A question I'm not sure many of us know the exact answer to, but we will definitely endeavor to explore this and many other things as we get to peek into the weird and wonderful world of the many creatives who call this place home. I hope y'all enjoy it. On this episode of iArt Asheville, we spoke with visual artist, illustrator, and all-around storyteller Julie Armbruster. This is another one of those cases where I've seen Julie's iconic work all around Asheville for years, and I've loved it so much, so it was such a pleasure to have her come speak with me about her life and her process. Julie has been practicing her current style of art for over 15 years now, and after moving to Asheville with a degree in fine art at NYU, which I thought was very interesting considering the overall aesthetic of her highly illustrative style, we discussed her studies and influences of this highly renowned art program in the summer she spent abroad in Italy studying fine art masters. This led us into an interesting discussion about the influence of religion on art and some of the crazy things she witnessed while in this program regarding the Catholic tradition of sainthood. This also brought up some thought-provoking comparisons to some other cultures around the world that have similar traditions and stories. We spoke about what being a parent is like for a practicing artist, a seemingly unique journey to all those brave enough to enter it, I will say that. And then, of course, we spoke a ton about Julie's art and her process, and we got an amazing glimpse into the kind of character detail and development Julie lends to in her paintings. Throw in some talks about a hip-hop making husband, vandalism's place in expressive arts, and a preacher that threw a bag of kittens into a lake? What? Yeah, we talked about that, and well, yeah, I think that's what you could call an episode of iArt Asheville. I hope y'all enjoy this one. This episode of the show is brought to you by Rad Printworks. You can find them on social media at Rad Printworks. They are located at the Foundation Studios in the heart of the River Arts District in beautiful downtown Asheville. And what would a podcast be without some amazing intro music? I want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to Connor Golden, a local Asheville musician who was so kind enough to let us use his music on the show. You can find him on SoundCloud and Instagram under his name, Connor Golden. Thanks so much for letting us use the music, Connor. And now, let's start the show.
Hello. 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 It's fun. My husband does instrumental hip hop, so he's got like
Does he really?
crazy amounts of like beat machines.
Oh, like
and,
synth pads and stuff like that?
It's so involved. I can't even explain it.
How long has he been doing that for? Collecting those kind of like instruments?
He has been doing it for a very long time. Let's see. Moved here in 2004, and he had a lot of the equipment then. So,
Oh,
but
really?
he's really good at it.
So he's
now.
like a lifetime hip
Oh, yeah.
hopper,
Yeah.
and he makes his own beats.
Mhm.
Is he on
Instrumental hip hop.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like the most quintessential kind of a beat, really. You know what I mean? Yeah, I love that stuff. That was one of the things that I loved about hip hop growing up. And my mom would always, like most moms when you grow up, they hear the curse words or whatever, and they hear the lyrics, and it's like, I don't want you listening to that. It was like, no, I don't even hear what they're saying, really. I just like the beats. I've always been that kind of person. So, and then also I've been like a SoundCloud. Is he on SoundCloud?
He's
okay.
he does Bandcamp.
Oh, Bandcamp only?
His I think so.
Oh, okay.
His band or his name is False Tropics.
False?
False,
like a faulted line, like a fault line?
No, FALSE.
Oh, false.
False Tropics. It's like kind of like when you see a mirage.
Oh, okay. I guess I can kind of see that correlation. That's cool. So he's not on SoundCloud though.
I don't think
Oh,
so.
okay. I feel like
yeah.
no, go ahead.
I don't know,
Oh.
but I'm pretty sure whenever he's shared stuff with me, it's been on. Could be SoundCloud too. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe he does both.
I am. SoundCloud's one of the like top 3 music playing platforms in the world. But I feel like I'm speaking Chinese when I ask people what their SoundCloud handle is. But that's coming from me, and I've been on that platform since 2011. Like I can tell you all the ins and outs and histories of like stupid SoundCloud. So I liken it to like almost like record digging, like back in the day, where people would go and actually thumb through, and people still do. But it's kind of like the digital version of that, where I can actually like go in and like find an artist I like, find a label that I like, or maybe even just listen to a mix, and then I'll go onto the track list and I'll look at all the tracks. It just becomes this endless rabbit hole, and it's really enabling for an audiophile like myself. But I love it. So I think we should do a podcast. I think we're kind of probably already doing a podcast. Julie Armbruster is here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're at the Dad Pad here in West Asheville. And Julie and I have never met before, so this is really cool. Another like first documented conversation. And I was explaining to you just a little bit ago that this project has been very exciting for me, and kind of for selfish reasons. I wanted to start it in so much that I'm really interested in having conversations with you all, the artists, especially those who I'm a fan of, and then we can expand and talk about it. So welcome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah. So your art, I remember the first time I saw it. It was a mural over in Magnolia Park, I think, in the Montfort area, and it has, your quintessential like the waves that you do in your style, and then people in boats, and a lot of the same imagery. I don't even know how to start to describe the kind of imagery that it is that you do, but it's something that I've noticed all around town here in Asheville forever. How has your experience been, being an active artist in Asheville?
Well, I moved here in 2004, and I feel very lucky from the get-go. Even before my work was a little bit more refined, I felt supported. People gave me opportunities, kind of right out of the gates, and those opportunities became more opportunities. So I just try to keep up on it and have each experience help me grow and figure out new things. So I feel very lucky. This community has been very supportive.
So you moved here in 2004, and you already had your kind of own style or practice at that point
Not
in time?
really. No, I just graduated with a master's in painting from NYU.
Did you?
Yep.
What was that
True
experience
story.
like?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so
wow.
fun.
The proximity to all the amazing art galleries that are over there must have been a huge inspiration. And then I'm sure the class load and the teachers and professors have been inundated in that New York art scene forever.
Everything was amazing. My particular degree was built for art teachers. So basically what it required is 2 summers in Venice, Italy, with NYU.
No way.
And then 1 summer in Manhattan with a thesis show at the end.
Okay.
And then during the year, most people were teaching art, but I was not. I had tried that, but it didn't work for me. And you were supposed to pull together a bunch of images of independent work that you did during the year. And then you kind of started the summer with that. And then the summer was very intensive. Like you were 100% there. There were no other responsibilities you could take on.
Even during the summer.
Well, because you were in Venice too. Like you couldn't really have like any normal life. It was just like studio every day, all day,
Sure.
even the weekend. And I mean, the weekends you could obviously go to these amazing places and take a little trip somewhere. But yeah, it was the best. It was the best experience.
I say being in a program like that where you're like you kind of know what you're committing to at that point. Like I'm gonna go to study abroad in an NYU program. Like you're in it. There's no off.
It had a wonderful, relaxing part about it because it was so intensive that you couldn't really get anything else done but that, and it helped you concentrate. You were in a totally different country. I didn't learn Italian before I went, so I was just in the studio all day every day.
Do you know Italian now?
I was able to ask for things mostly at like trattorias, and I could ask for things. That's about it.
That's nice.
I could say thank you. And
what kind of art stuck out for you when you were over there?
the reason that I wanted to study in Venice was because of the Renaissance painters. My favorite being Giovanni Bellini, and so I really enjoyed about them the narratives. And of course, their version of art was very religious, but they're really cool stories. They're like very strange, full of magic.
I love that word.
Yes, and it was just wonderful to see everything like in the actual places where they were made to be, and so I became really fascinated with this term continuous narrative. Where it's a panel or a mural or a fresco where there is the same character having multiple experiences in the same painting. So as they grow or they experience something, they change, but it's still the same painting. And
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I find that interesting that you're saying that is because your artwork seems to have like a lot of the characters and stuff that you develop seem to actually have like this like little side story that maybe even continues sometimes in other drawings or gets repeated. So you were clearly influenced by that then.
Yes, absolutely influenced. And of course the style's different. My particular style is more illustrative and colorful and very different. It's weird when people hear that that's my influence, but it definitely is. It is my influence mostly, and they were amazing at detail. Which I have a huge fondness for.
Without reference photos, right?
Yeah, obviously without reference photos. They're like, let's see, we're gonna have St. Francis on a cliff with a skull
at 6 p.m.
and he's like
with some overcast
receiving the stigmata. Like it's a really crazy story and amazing. The paintings are very cool, and if you are religious, I think there's a certain degree of reverence there. But for me, just seeing the stories and just seeing the devotion and dedication. For instance, there was this town not too far from Venice, Padua, where Saint Anthony is from. So like all of the, the traveling religious people would go and worship the church, and Catholics seem to be really interested in relics, the reliquary. So the church would have, the regular type church things, and then there'd be like the side wing in the Church of Saint Anthony where it's all of his body parts kind of enshrined.
Whoa, like separated? They're not together. Why did they do that?
And enshrined. It's so weird. But my favorite one was this huge gilded. It was like the most ornate stand you could possibly have, and it looked sort of like one of those glass coverings, like Beauty and the Beast rose,
Oh, okay, yeah.
But inside was his tongue, and so he was the saint of miracles. And so he used his tongue to
how does the tongue correlate to miracles?
Profess these miracles.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the tongue was so crazy. Okay, so then besides that, in the gift store, which I think is amazing that they have a gift store, they had
right.
teeny tiny little pieces of white linen that were licked by the tongue.
So hold on right there. So somebody in the after hours in that collection of art and insignia and stuff would open up that glass Beauty and
Yes.
Beast case and rub a bunch of pieces of white linen on it so they could say it's
And then
how
they
much-
would encase them in resin and then put them in sterling silver and turn them into charms.
Oh my God. How much do they charge for
They
something
were
like that?
$3.
I guess it's kind of cheap to make.
It
so
was, yeah. I
It's
mean,
nice
it
that
was-
they're passing the savings on to those who are interested.
It was amazingly affordable. I was like,
Right.
obviously, yes, this is coming with me.
That's kind of an ingenious spin on a collection basket, if you will, right? Just
Yes.
like everybody will buy this licked linen. That's so interesting.
And licked by the Saint of
Saint.
Miracles.
Oh my gosh, that's
so
so
exciting.
weird. That reminds me of a story of one time I was in my family, my mom's side is from Quebec, so they migrated down into Vermont, and so my great grandparents were French speaking primarily. You know, they were immigrated to the States, and then of course. My grandmother, still French speaking and growing up in Vermont, which had a huge, French Canadian presence at that time, what still does. I remember we went up the first time to Canada ever. We went to Quebec, and of course she wants to visit all the basilicas and cathedrals because we grew up in a Roman Catholic home. Shout out to everybody who went to Catholic school. I know I did kindergarten through 12, and here I am today. Anyways, there was a really preserved. I guess it's one of the saints or whatever that they claim, like this miracle type thing happened, and it was if I remember correctly, it was a whole body that was just there, and it was like never like decayed or decomposed. Like it's very interesting.
Show me what the life size was with your hands.
No,
The actual human.
No, I'm pretty sure it was like a
seriously.
human.
I know. They were on display at the churches.
And
Like
so was it the
humans,
same
and
thing?
they were like 3 feet tall, like adults.
And was it the same thing where they just like? I guess that's what they claim. At least that's what in the experience when I witnessed this thing. I thought it was really bizarre looking at it looked real. I mean, who knows? I'm not trying to marginalize the validity of it, but that concept of like saintlyhood, where that's one of the reasons or one of the indicators that that this person was so special, because after they were gone, their body didn't decompose. And I know it's something that's not necessarily. You say
They
no
must
way.
have done something.
I know. I'm skeptical of it
Same
myself.
thing with the tongue. I mean, obviously they're
Sure.
taking it off and exposing it to air.
Sure, and I'm skeptical of it myself. I would definitely not be inclined to think that there wasn't some kind of like messing with it, even for the sake of promoting the religion. I mean,
Right.
I get it from objective points of view. Why it's so weird. But what I was gonna say is like the thing that I think gives it a little bit more credibility and validity is like. When reading about like ancient cultures and ancient civilizations, you hear about a lot of these like saintly like figures who can who similar things, where their bodies won't decompose, or when they're in a room, you get this aroma of like roses or perfume and stuff like that. You've heard about these things in like ancient Indian.
It's insane.
So I mean, I guess there could be something there to it, and then of course you have all those stories about people, in ancient times living to hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years old. I don't know. It's interesting. It's thought provoking. But I think maybe in the case of the Roman Catholic Church, which I don't know, it would be good to question and double check because they don't have the best history of. I don't know.
Honesty.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you know what I'm talking about.
I do. It was more appreciation of the art for me, definitely, when I was there. And there are so many great things to appreciate.
Mm-hmm. So did you grow up religious at all or spiritual at all when in your upbringing?
My mom insisted that we were Methodist while we were little.
Mm-hmm.
My brother is
She insisted.
4 years younger than me, so he didn't really get much of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got confirmation and all of that stuff. Yeah, I remember going to the classes for confirmation, and like a lot of it could be kind of playful and fun, like you come up with songs or you learn a song and teach the other kids, and so in that way it was cute. And our pastor was a really wonderful woman, and I remember just like she asked me a bunch of questions personally, and I was like, you know what? Recycling makes sense to me. I think that we are going to be born again in another form. Like that's the only thing that makes sense to my brain. This was like, it's like, I think you're like third grade or something.
This was a thought that you had that
Yeah.
your teacher kind of confirms, like, yeah, why not? That could be.
No, she's like, no, that's not what I believe, but you're allowed to have your own beliefs. She was very cool. Like I thought on that end of it, I felt very open-minded about, and she was like willing to accept my open-mindedness. So sadly, we stopped going to that church, and then we went to a church that was closer to our house, and I had witnessed something. So it was like kind of like a neighbor, and I had witnessed the pastor doing something horrid, and I gave up on religion just
Oh
then
my
and there.
gosh,
And I was little, you know.
That's so sad to hear.
Yeah, he took a bag full of kittens and threw it in the lake because he didn't want to take care of them. Yes. A bag full of kittens. I was like, I will accept those kittens and like I will take the kittens and you don't have to murder them.
I can't believe that.
Terrible.
Well, my mind went another place, obviously, because we're so conditioned to think about the atrocities that oftentimes happen in those, Christian circles and stuff. I will add my 2 cents. Like I said earlier, I grew up going to Catholic school, kindergarten to 8th grade, okay, and then a Catholic high school, after that, and I always just had so many questions about it, and there were so many contradictions in the natural ways that I would think were, the natural ways of thinking versus the contradictions that I would hear within the church, and then coupled with our country and the democracy here. It's just like really weird. It was very confusing as a child growing up, but I will say, being an altar boy, I was an altar boy for like, I don't even know, I want to say 5 years or more, maybe, growing up in that church. I went to the school, went to the church. I never ever had one instance of a poor judgment on a priest's behalf or anybody in that circle. So
yeah,
and it's weird when you hear stuff like poor behavior going on. I never saw it, but it's obviously a pattern at this point in time. It's
totally
crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, I don't know. Growing up in that environment was very interesting. So, anyways, now you are a mother.
Yes.
And you have
mother of one,
6-year-old girl.
Yes.
Saw a cute little photo
just
for kindergarten.
On Flag Day turned 6.
So crazy.
Her name is Olivero Reinhardt.
Oh, cool. Very
She's got
cool.
the cutest name.
How has that been, that journey of motherhood been for you so far?
Well, it has definitely been a difficult road. She had colic for 6 months when she was born, which is basically unexplained and untreatable.
And for those who don't know, that's basically your baby just crying incessantly,
screaming,
from
crying.
Pains of gas or whatever.
Like, we couldn't figure it out. Just incessant crying. And so my husband and I, we had taken on this project as a very specific, we're going to have a kid. We're going to do this as a project together.
I like how you call it a project.
Yes,
that's cool.
It was very much a project in our mind. And I had gotten a lot of unhelpful advice in advance.
Yeah, tell me more. I got plenty to say about that. Go ahead.
So one of my least favorite things, which I don't think that there is a conversation about it. My least favorite things was, oh, you're going to be such a great mom. It's like, dude, nobody's a great mom. You either try really hard and get better.
Sure.
Or you don't try at all and then
You're
your
a
kid
piece of
comes
shit.
out horrible. Yeah. So those
thank you for acknowledging that I'm trying really hard. Right now,
well, the thing is it puts in your mind that it should be natural and easy and kind of intuitive, but it is not in my experience.
Right. I would say the natural and easy part, maybe the intuition I would find, at least for me as a father, different scenario, but the intuition thing I definitely followed a lot, and that seemed to be kind of a good kind of parameter for what to do, but it's not easy at
Well, it was
all.
it was basically setting me up to feel really confident. But then we had this thing with the colic, which I wasn't familiar with. I didn't have a lot of experience with, and I just felt really bad at it. And I felt that it was my fault that she was crying all the time, which it wasn't, but
Right.
yeah, how else are you going to feel? You're trapped, for a number of years, and she's only 6, but for a number of years, in my mind, I was like a sinking ship.
Oh no!
And I was being drowned. It was terrible. It was, I mean, I loved being a mom, but
Sure.
it was a very dark time in the beginning.
Okay, that's good. That's cool that you can admit that, because I would have to agree. For me, and again, totally different scenario being a father, but as a new parent. The time frame, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, the time frame in which I realized that we were going to have a child, right, and we found out she was pregnant, and then and then up until the first year or two, I was also in a very, I don't know, I guess you can say kind of dark or I don't know, very iffy spot. I didn't know it took me a long time to realize during the pregnancy, just to assimilate and process what that might mean, what it would mean to be a parent and how my life's going to change and all these like existential things that you have going on. I mean, the time in which I found out we were going to have a baby, it was, I was living out of my car, traveling around doing music festivals, painting and selling art to get to the next spot and everything. Life was good for me. Right. But I can't, you know what I mean?
Can't, I mean, depending on your baby, that was the other really poor advice that I got, where I had seen another artist and she was like, oh, it doesn't have to change anything at all. You just bring the baby and, you do your work and you make the baby part of your life. You just push them right in. And I'm like, yeah, in my mind, I was like, okay, I have my own studio. So like I can set up a little spot for her.
Totally.
And, yeah. And just like, as she was born and very young still, people were just like, oh, when is she going to come to the studio and paint with you? It's like,
that's my space.
Honest. Well, it wasn't even that. It was like, do I need to be like bouncing on a yoga ball while I'm trying to paint? Like, because she's crying and I have a sound machine in her ear, like all 6 of the S's we had to do at the same time. And she was still crying.
Yeah, exactly. So I would definitely attest to what you're saying. It's so difficult to find that time, and it's very important to set aside that time because, the kids need they need the full attention, and it's cool. At least for me, I find really fun, interesting ways to kind of incorporate what I'm doing or interested in, and I'm sure you do the same. Like for example, my son, I can't wait to paint over this one. We do these time lapse videos where, he'll finger paint or he'll pick brushes and colors that he likes and lay down some paint, and then I'll go in and I'll see what I see on top of it. It's so much fun, like little stuff like that you can do. How do you find yourself incorporating creativity into your daughter's life, or do you like finding that balance between maybe imposing the fact that you are a practicing artist, and how do you deal with all that?
Well, I had different hopes for it originally. I definitely expected it to be less difficult, very idealistic, it turns out, the way that I thought parenthood would feel, or in terms of my studio practice. Before, like all the way through my pregnancy, but obviously before that, I was full-time, like hardcore, like every day hustling, just like making more stuff and figuring out different projects and, commission, like the whole board. Like I had a very full-time job, but it also required 40 plus hours of making.
Yeah, a real job.
Yeah. And when that was gone, it was like a complete reevaluation of the studio practice. And I had still these like really high expectations of productivity, I just didn't realize like how tired I would be. It was just so exhausting. And it was really like, I think we got an intervention. It was I want to say it was her 2-month visit where we had been in touch with our pediatrician and like my family came in the very beginning to see her, and we were just so determined to make it happen or make it work and do it right. And like regarding
incorporating your art career.
No, this was just raising the human without her dying on us, and she like the crying, we were like, well, like they said it was going to be hard. And like we'd call the pediatrician and be like, yeah, she cries like a lot. And they were like, yeah, babies cry a lot. like they weren't getting it. And we weren't expressing it because we felt guilty that we were doing something wrong or we weren't doing enough. And our 2-month checkup, we were rushed to the hospital. Like,
oh, no way.
Like they were like, failure to thrive. Like this is like an actual problem. Why didn't you tell us earlier? I'm like, I've been telling you this whole time.
So the doctor that after you're checking, they're like, you guys need it.
Well, she was losing weight. She was much less than her birth weight at 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And she was skinny. Like you think of babies like chubby and sweet and like smiley. She was skinny, like absurdly thin.
Oh my gosh.
And it was terrifying. Yeah. And we were just trying our best and it was not working because we thought, like if we broke up the day, the 24 hours of the day to like him and I like taking 8-hour shifts. I'm not joking. This was bouncing on a yoga ball 100% of the time. Like we had killer legs. That was the only good thing.
Because she would be calm, but she would be soothed by that.
She would be less loud at crying. Okay. We'd have a sound machine at her ear. because that's supposed to relax them. She'd be in the baby, like the baby wrap, like little like thing, and we'd be bouncing her, and we tried pacifiers, we tried everything. It was, like literally nothing worked, and we were just so out of our minds. And if you don't get like great sleep, you get crazy. And this was like weeks and weeks and weeks
compounding. Yeah.
Yes. So, we felt very crazy, and it definitely injured our like confidence a lot. Thinking that it was somehow like our fault.
Yeah, and of course I can see why one would feel that way. It's your child and you're responsible and all that. But it's just such a transitionary time, and that's, I would say, something to keep in mind for anybody who's going to be a new parent or is a new parent. It's just there's no handbook. Each little personality is different, and when you were saying earlier, like everybody has all this advice for you and do this and do this, it's like, no, I didn't really do a lot of that, and
it's very specific, very
find your own
specific
way
to your human. The one that you get is what you need to know about. That's it.
Yeah, it's really cool, and that's what I'm trying to drive home, is like each person is unique, each baby is unique too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, that's awesome. Let's segue a little bit. I want to talk about. I feel like I should have something really important to say now.
Yeah, well, there was
your
like
art's very important.
Car accident outside. So
did you hear that one too? So I want to talk about your mural work and your gallery presence, because I was going through your page and you have it seems like you have a presence everywhere. Like I was saying before, I've seen your art so many different places. Before we got to meet here today. So how many murals do you have around town? How do you find a balance between your mural work and then putting time into gallery work? What do you like to do amongst all that stuff?
I feel like so the first one that I did in town that I love was the Magnolia Park.
Oh, is it really?
Yes, that was the first one that I did that I love. It wasn't the first one that I did, but it had, it definitely went along with my current aesthetic. Before that, the reason that I came to Asheville is to join the AmeriCorps, and I did a bunch of murals for them as part of my volunteerism.
Oh, okay.
And they were more like United Way, like they were more specific to what they needed, and I, like my lines weren't as refined, and my ability to, I think with mural work, and of course this just as well, it's really important to take your design and refine it to the most essential elements. Otherwise, it can just be so overwhelming, the space.
Sure.
And so with the Magnolia Park, that was a total gift from a fan of mine that lived in the neighborhood and just kind of helped me process the whole thing, and was very insistent on it being me, and that they were going to fundraise for the whole thing and get all of the city approvals and whatnot to get that done. And
so this person did all that footwork for you. That's dope.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I went to the meetings and I represented myself, but it was it would not have happened without them. And
so that was a project you did with the city, and then they created a stipend for you, and you came out with design work that they had to approve and all that.
They had to approve everything, and there had to be like a community meeting where all of the Montford people came, and they were like, giving you their opinion on the whole thing, which it was very cool that the person that helped me or that made that happen was just just so relaxed about the whole thing. They're like, listen, this is nothing, just like having someone that has been through city stuff before, that is just like, this is just a formality, just hear their questions, maybe something gets changed. In fact, that one's hilarious because the thing that they wanted to change about my original design, I have this character, it's like a little stump, and it's got a little man's face on it, and he's got a very serious mustache, and he's like they're woodchucks. Okay. They're all wood, and they're named Chuck. And it is like, it's just a character of mine, like nothing to like be freaked out about. And they were like, you got to lose the mustache. What? This is a children's park. You got to lose the mustache.
But yes, that is interesting. What do you think that they thought the mustache inferred?
There's
adulthood?
No, I think the mustache has to do with people's stereotypical versions of child molesters.
Oh, interesting. I would see I would never even think about that.
I didn't. I definitely had to have it explained to me.
That's an interesting one. That is so interesting. Wow. Well, that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about when you say, because I know that it seems for a lot of muralists out there that honestly the most fun stuff that I do is when I'm just able to do what I'm able to do, and oftentimes I'm not getting paid for that. I ask for paints, pay for my paints and we'll do something cool. And that's honestly some of the best fun I could ever have with art, really. And I know that it seems like the opportunities for artists to make a decent, viable income often come with these city grants and these mural projects that cities want to kind of kickstart. And it's interesting to hear your experience with that, because I know that there's a lot of artists who have complained to me about the very bureaucratic aspect of how that can be. So it's interesting that you ran into something. It
is very weird. The community forum was a lot of neighbors. They're very invested in their community. Before the mural, it was just this horrible, it looked like a hot dog roll. It's bathrooms.
Yeah, which are always locked, by the way. Would somebody go and open those freaking restrooms so I can take a leak, or my son doesn't have to pee on the persimmon tree? By the way, that's a nice persimmon tree. The little
really
fruit trees that
park.
They have there. Yeah.
It's a really beautiful park, and with the mural, I think the whole thing comes together. It's very nice.
Most definitely. So your process for creating mural work, I'm assuming you must use aerosol in large part to cover a lot of.
I do it all with brush.
You do it all with brush. Oh my gosh!
I love making my life difficult and injuring my back. That's kind of my thing.
Do you get some help to cover some map some things out?
I definitely. Well, the idea with the murals is to break it down, especially. Well, my theory is the best part of my work is the characters, and so to invest all of the concentration on the characters and have somewhat of a flat background or a background that is minimalist. And I've done this with my gallery work too, where I've kind of focused on the characters themselves and let the background be kind of like a washy kind of whisper of what it could be. But of course, when you spend the time to make a really involved, super intricate background, it's very cool. But for the large scale work, that was not going to be possible. So I worked that into my plans and made sure to have that particular one. I think it has a two-tone background, and then there's a little hilltop that has some detail, but it's very simple, very simple. And most of my time was spent. Basically, I could do 1 or 2 characters a day.
Oh, wow.
And it's all brushwork.
Well,
all of my murals are brushwork.
So what kind of paints do you like to use to apply to the wall there?
That one was cement-specific latex exterior.
Okay.
Sherwin-Williams they took care of all of that. But
that's nice, because I was gonna say I've never actually thought to start to crunch numbers if I was to buy the color palette that I wanted to with latex paint. That sounds.
It was.
Do you have a lot of extra?
I tried. Yeah, I did have a lot of extra at the time. I've kind of tried to pawn it off, because paint kind of gets weird after a while. So it's better to just either use it up or figure out a place where it can get used kind of right away. The best part about, or not the best, but one of the greatest parts about that mural is we figured out this overcoat. It's called Graffiti Guard, and it's crazy expensive. Sure. It's $150 a gallon or something ridiculous, right? And the idea is that you brush it on. It feels sort of like a gum rubber. It's squishy, and if people graffiti it, you just hose it down.
Oh,
and it's 100% gone.
You don't even need a solvent or anything.
Nope, no solvent at all.
Okay, I thought you needed solvent. That's crazy. So, man, I've dealt with some of that, and I'm going to reserve my comments right now. I mean, I would love to hear what you think about vandalism's place, graffiti's place in the world of street art, and where that kind of meets mural work. Because I don't know, I've had some interesting experiences. I grew up very interested in graffiti art, and I understand the culture to a decent degree, where you're trying to get up and put your name everywhere, and it kind of becomes a game. It's kind of gamified, but there's definitely also the art aspect of it, the stylized letters. I remember one of the first things I ever was really interested in artwork, and I still I think I have a hard time finding the I guess, the line between where vandalism starts and art begins or whatever. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I definitely have thoughts. I would feel very, very offended and disappointed if someone covered my art with a graffiti tag. I think that, I believe in, like small businesses, and this is just a huge burden to them if you put something that they didn't ask for on their walls. Like that's just not, it's not respectful, and I'm against it. Of course, like if it's like a abandoned building and you're like practicing your sprays, or the trains, I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
But I always thought that there was a code within the graffiti community that they would not tag over themselves. But I know that I did a mural over at the Wedge Foundation, and so there's this whole section where you're allowed to graffiti legally there. And I remember the owner being very disappointed that some of the best work was just covered with something like very sloppy and haphazard and not at all interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy because I guess, man, I'm all for expressing yourself however you see fit, and ultimately I would agree. I'm very much of the natural law kind of do no harm, take no shit, self-reliability, radical self-reliance ethos is things that I hold true to my heart. And so considering that and like vandalism, it's like it is kind of, in a way, I can see how a vandal would say, well, it's your responsibility to protect your own property and make sure that this doesn't happen if you don't want it to happen. You know what I mean? And it becomes this interesting, it's I don't know, a complicated argument between, protecting your own property versus, I don't know, somebody coming in and taking it or writing their name on it like it's their own. It's interesting. And then, of course, we have all this vandalism going on with the whole protests and things like that. Do you have any thoughts? How are you feeling in this time, or regarding, I don't know, the times that we're in?
Yeah, the protests, I feel like the resistance to the Black Lives Matter is just very disappointing. And
on the cops' behalf, or just general public, or both? Obviously, I mean,
on the what?
On the police's behalf, or
the police, so disturbing.
The
racists that have decided to like publicly tell everybody how they feel. It's just so disappointing, and I feel sad. I feel sad for our city.
Yeah, it's really weird. I'm definitely of this, like, and I guess I'm toning down. That's what everybody says when you grow up. You kind of tone down these like more radical ideas that you have when you're in your 20s and such. Where it's like, I was definitely a big part of the Occupy movement, and I was able to see a lot of different encampments throughout the country on the East Coast, and it was really eye opening for me. Having an early call to action and such. And there's a part of me who, after doing so many demonstrations and protests and talks, and coming to no conclusion, or not even, having your issues being felt like they're heard, at what point in time, do you have to start taking action or do so? Like it's interesting because I definitely think that there's a place for peaceful demonstrations, and I also think that at some point in time, and this goes back to the do no harm, take no shit, but it's like, and I'm not supporting any kind of violence, but what I'm saying is, for people who are trying to get their ideas and thoughts heard, and felt like they're heard, it's not a wonder to me that some people would think that violence or burning down capitalism and all this, like I mean, I don't know, it's an interesting thing. I don't think capitalism, and I had this discussion before, but capitalism doesn't have a lot of positive tendencies, it seems like, to the human race. So I can see both sides of it. Unfortunately, what vandalism has done in this time is it's marginalized those who do want to have peaceful demonstrations, and it seems like it's becoming more clear now from the outside looking in that there are certain people, that the people who want to do the vandalism aspect and the rioting and looting are different from those who are the peaceful protests, and I think that's becoming more apparent now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's gonna take the responsibility of those who are involved in those calls to action to have their due diligence and hold each other accountable. Really. Yeah, I've said that before, but anyways. So, it was weird how it hit close home here in Asheville. How they smashed all those water bottles and stuff. Did you see that photo?
It was so...
My sister, she lives in Rhode Island. She's like, is this true? This happened in Asheville? I was like, yeah, this is crazy. I couldn't believe it. But anyways...
Things got to change.
They've got to
change, and if it requires, like, the police being called out, that's what it requires.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a terrible mess right now.
It is. And I don't necessarily have the answers, and I don't necessarily have a lot of solution-oriented things except for having conversation about them and trying to get people, talking about it. And because I think that's, I don't know, I really have faith that clear communication and conversation is really going to be the best thing to try to implement change. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and... Scusi, I was looking for that one earlier when we were talking about Italian art. So your art is you have so many different reproductions of your art, and that's I think that's what really makes you so prolific, and it seems like you're almost everywhere. So you have you do t-shirts, prints, pins, what else am I stickers.
I've got Frico bags, which are amazing.
What's a Frico bag?
A Frico bag. So in Europe they call reusable shopping bags eco bags.
Mm-hmm.
So mine's a Frico bag because everyone always forgets their bag. And it has a little freak on the outside to help remind you because you love it so much that you put it on the outside of your purse or your book bag or whatever. And then you have your little buddy who's like kind of like your pet, but inside his stuffing is made out of recycling bags.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's very fun.
Very
I love
clever.
them. They're not at all appreciated, but I love them.
That's so cool. And so this is this has imagery of some of like your characters, right?
Yeah, so basically, I partnered with one of my friends, and she helped put together all the pieces. But I was very interested in making a made in the U.S. product. So we got all of the outside fabric sourced here in North Carolina, and then the bag itself is made out of ripstop nylon, which is what they make parachutes out of.
I was just gonna say that sounds like parachute.
Oh my gosh, It's the best. I've had mine for years and years, and it's amazing. And it's all vegan leather, the ears and the arms and stuff. And then I got them screen printed at Image 420. Cool. And we just had to, and then we got them sewed by a worker-owned co-op in Morganton.
Oh, nice.
So it was local. It was all local. It was it is. I mean, I still have hundreds of them, but
go check out the freak bags, y'all.
Frico bags.
Go check them out.
I feel like you have to come to the studio to see them.
So where's the main place studio that they can reach you or see your work right now?
Right now, I have a studio at the Wedge Studios in the River Arts District in Asheville. However, it's not quite open to the public yet. Again, since the quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of... Everybody runs their own business, so to get everybody on board with like masks and hand washing.
Yeah. How many total vendors are there?
In my building, like, so if you just look at my door, like there's the first floor, 2, 4, 5 artists, and then upstairs, maybe like 10 artists. Mm-hmm. And they just have very specific opinions on what the quarantine and all of the new regulations, which of course is like straightforward since it's actual law. Right. Wear the mask when you're out and about. If you don't want to have your door locked, wear the mask around others, and and have like the hand washing stations everywhere.
It seems like everybody's pretty much figured it out.
Nobody's figured it out there. Like absolutely nothing has been done. And I tried to make a big deal out of it because my mom actually tested positive. She lives in New York.
Oh, get out.
She had it for 6.5 weeks. And she said it was excruciating. She did not get hospitalized or have the respiratory side, which is the deadly aspect of it. But she was like, it was horrible for her.
Dude, I have to do this because that's for the C word. I've not talked to anybody who knows somebody personally who
That was my mom, my sweet mom.
She's better now.
She is. It was 6.5 weeks, the recovery. She lost her taste, but has gained it back.
They did say that's a thing.
A lot of weakness. She said she'd never been so sick in her 70 years of life. And just like weak and sick.
And she's in the city.
She doesn't live in the city. I'm from upstate New York, so it's about an hour north of New York City if
Which
you take
area?
the train. Hudson Valley.
Hudson Valley area. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess they call that whole area Hudson Valley. Which
Truly,
town?
yes. She lives in Newburgh.
Newburgh. Okay. Is that near White Plains?
It's north of White Plains.
That's the only time I've went over there because Alex Gray has his chapel sacred mirrors there.
So his actual place is in Beacon.
Oh, Beacon. Okay.
Yeah, and that's across the river.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So,
okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
right there.
I've been there too. I love
So
it.
yeah, but oh, okay. So you're familiar
Yeah.
with his work. Yeah, I love his stuff. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, that crazy water tower. You've seen it, so.
Yeah.
And then you get to take your shoes off and go look at his paintings and stuff.
Yeah. His space, his gallery. I feel like we've talked about him and his work in almost every other podcast, but with good reason because his work is insane. But yeah, his space is just like this super hybrid of a fine art gallery and also like a chapel sacred space. It's crazy.
Oh,
like
it's
it
so
feels
beautiful.
kind of holy and
Oh my gosh, that gazebo, that weird gazebo, like deep in the yard.
Well,
Oh
do
my
you know
gosh.
how he actually has
So
his
beautiful.
property set up as the 7 chakras on a
Oh my
human
gosh,
body?
I did not know that.
So the first time I went over there, it was a group of my friends, maybe 5 or 6 of us, and maybe there's a couple other people. I forget what they were doing. It was just like I don't know, some kind of art day. I don't even know. He was giving some lecture. We went over, and his wife and him ended up giving like 6 or 7 of us a tour around the property personally, and
Amazing.
explained how it was set up with all the chakras, and just was like very adamant. It was like, if you guys have a vision or an image that you want to see come to fruition, just let us know. Put together the project, whatever, and we'll see how viable it is. You know what I mean? So they're very like user doer oriented, person to person. Like they're just like, come on, grassroots, let's build this amazing space. It's really cool.
It's
what
so
they're doing over
fantastic.
there.
I have a
Yeah.
crazy personal story about that space, though.
I'd love to hear it.
So my whole family is amazing at swimming. That's kind of like our superpower. If you can have a superpower, it's swimming for us. And we were all lifeguards growing up, and we lived near there, so you could get a great job being a lifeguard. In
Sure.
the summer, obviously, or during the year. I was a full year round lifeguard. It was amazing. And my brother got a job working as a lifeguard before it was Alex Gray's property. It was like a conference center, or it wasn't like a KOA. It was like more like a resort. It was a resort. And he was the lifeguard. And I think it was the second time he had to literally pull somebody out and give them CPR because they were dead. It was my brother. He's just like amazing at saving people.
So he had...
Yeah. He was the lifeguard, and they had to like, he pulled the person out, gave him CPR, and rescued them.
He saved 2 people on that property?
That property, he saved 1 person, and then I believe the other account was at the KOA in Platicilla, which is across the river. But
Is there like a little beach area with a lake that they have? Is that what that is?
I think they had a pool.
Oh, just a pool.
I think they had a pool.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Oof.
Lake lifeguarding is like a whole nother thing. No way would I agree
Oh, so you
to
were
that.
doing pool
Always
lifeguard.
pool, always
Oh,
pool.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not messing around. Like we had like these crazy lakes where we live.
Yeah,
There's
that's what I think of.
Minnewaska. Lake Minnewaska is a state park, and yeah, you could so easily die in that lake. Like no way would I want that kind of responsibility.
Oh my God, that
I was
sounds so-
swimming just like freestyle, like above the water in Lake Minnewaska, and a snake's face pulled its little face out of the water while I was swimming. I was like, ah!
Oh my God.
Yeah, you could very easily
crazy.
die there. It's very dark water. You don't want to be swimming there.
Yeah, I that's what I think about when I think of upstate is all the lakes and stuff and rivers. I guess that's crazy.
Nah, we got pools too.
Pool,
We got pools.
keep it safe and sane in the pool.
I like to see all the way to the bottom, make sure everybody's
Everybody's
accounted for.
And that's the beauty of our little areas. Even our little rivers and creeks and streams, for the most part, you can see all the way down to the bottom, which is really nice,
Totally.
I want to ask you about your character work again, because I was saying earlier that each character seems like it has like a background story. I want to know how you create that story for them, and is it maybe even something like you conceive of, like is it something that maybe you have a thought of in the beginning that you want to portray? Or is it you kind of do the art and then kind of be like, oh, this seems like...
I think it's a combination. So the original characters are born from automatic drawing. My process is I'll take like a light colored ink and kind of just like push it around, and I'll usually do a couple of panels at the same time. So, and then I'll go back in and see what I see. It's sort of like your process, and as the character develops, sometimes they demand more narrative than the single like panel. And that's how I've written I've have a couple of written stories about my characters, and they tell me their backstories after they're painted usually. And they'll be like, all right, listen, I need this and this to supplement this painting, and then I will make those. And if they keep demanding, then I will put it together in a zine and actually like physically write out the thing. Yeah.
So you actually have some zines out, because I was going to ask if you ever done like cartoon.
Yeah, I was talking to you before about how I do not love being on the computer. So any kind of like computer based work I could never stomach. But in terms of the zine making, you know, my husband's he was in punk rock bands all throughout our high school experience. We're high school sweethearts.
Get out.
Yes,
cool.
True story.
That's awesome.
1997. Yeah. Let's see. So I have a few zines. One of them is the Story of Potato Boy, which started out as more of like a cookbook, which is super gross and horrible. Yeah. And then as the story became more available to me, like just through the process of observing the characters, I was able to make it into a full color. I think it's like 20 pages. And it outlines the whole story of Potato Boy up to a point, but then it kind of leaves a cliffhanger. So I could definitely write more about him.
Oh my gosh.
And then the other idea that I had was, I don't know even why I like decided, but I was like, trilogy, that's what I'm going to do. And then there was this
Potato Boy?
Not a Potato Boy.
Okay.
So this was a different character, Professor Wonderbar, who is the main character in the Magnolia painting.
Which is the
white cat.
The white cat.
She looks like a chihuahua. I get that a lot, but she's a cat. Anyway, she's a cat. Yeah. She's a cat. I have chihuahuas like in my life, my personal pets. So I love their shape and their personality. So I do feel strongly about chihuahuas, but in the story, she's a cat.
I love it.
And which is funny because like similar to the Potato Boy story, like part of like the aggravation of the main nemesis, or you know, like the evil character in Potato Boy. Yes, the protagonist is that everyone calls him a duck when he's a goose, and he just like it just like burns a rage in his heart. Besides the fact that his mom denied him carbs as a child, and so like he's obsessed with potatoes.
Oh my goodness!
And so when Potato Boy adopts him, he's like,
I'm hungry.
I'm gonna kill you. God. Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna figure out how to kill you, and he's like, that will cure like this like burning hatred that has developed every picnic season after I watch all of these humans eating French fries and potato salad, and like his mom wouldn't let him have any, so he was just like obsessed with potatoes. And Potato Boy in the story is a very Jesus-like character.
Okay,
you know, he's very loving and forgiving and believes in change, and he knows this about Elmore, who's the evil goose, and he's like, you know what? I feel like we can work on this. We can work on this together. He's like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you, and just let me get into your circle, you know?
This is amazing.
Yeah, and so he adopts him, and anyway, so as the story progresses, should I just tell the story?
Yes, please do. Okay. Yes, I'm so all ears.
Potato Boy adopts him, and has this kind of like personal bend in helping others, and being loving,
altruistic.
Yes, very loving. Anyway, so Elmore basically was like, you know, I'm much smaller than Potato. Potato Boy, by the way, is half potato and half goat man.
Okay.
So his dad is Armheart, who's like this goat man type character in other paintings, and then Potato Boy and his dad is a potato. Just like
oh my gosh! Wait, we're gonna pause. Hold on, pause right there. For those of y'all who have not seen Julie's work, it's on Instagram at Julie Armbruster Art. And this gives you the perfect idea. I think I love this because this is giving us a glimpse into the brain of you and how how fantastical and like wonderful these little character creatures that you come up with are. So go ahead, tell me more.
Okay. So he adopts Elmore and brings him into a circle, and Elmore's like, listen, like I'm much smaller than Potato Boy, who in like as a you know, like a goat man like potato hybrid is very big, and he doesn't even fit in clothes. He only wears underwear. It's mostly potato, you see. Anyway, so he also wears a hood, which is completely unexplained because he's not wearing a shirt, so he's just wearing this like.
But that's in nowadays, actually.
Yeah, it's very strange. Yeah. Very strange. No shirt.
No, just hood.
That's very strange.
Yeah, there's companies like that. Okay.
Huh. Okay, so he adopts Elmore, and Elmore like behind his back like finds all of these disgruntled creatures that are just like dissatisfied or unhappy, and they're like, you know what? I'll help you kill. Potato Boy. I'll join your team.
I need some carbs.
Yeah. Well, basically, his plan was he found this one. His name's Mr. Flame. He was this like bird guy, and he was able to like fire hate into your heart.
Oh my gosh.
And then he hired these other characters, which are Elliots, and they would sow the hate in, so that you would actually be changed forever because Elmore would like kind of like take over your sense of
oh my god, like
sense
your
of
essence.
love. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And so that was, like meanwhile, like Potato Boy's like taking Elmore on all of these like field trips and be like, hey, life doesn't have to be so intense. You don't have to be angry all the
Nice
time.
guy.
Like there's like so many cool things about everything. Like let's just go and experience some of that. And I'm sure you're gonna come around, like obviously. Anyway, as part of this plotting happened, Potato Boy is not foolish in every way. He's like, well, like he did say he's going to try to kill me, so I'm going to hire a bodyguard. So he hires a bodyguard, which is like this like albino koala. Her name's Mooney.
Oh my god.
She carries a gun. She carries like a pistol.
thickens.
Yeah. And Mooney is like obsessed with contracts. It's like Jesus, right? Like you need to have like a bodyguard that's obsessed with contracts, and like the contract was that she would protect Potato Boy. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, like Elmore's like doing all of these like mischievous things behind Potato Boy's back to like kind of like just be like, I'm gonna take you down, and it turns out that this might be a little too intense for your listeners, but
no,
it
you
turns out
can say whatever you want.
Yeah, that Elmore murders Potato Boy's mom.
Oh my god.
And Mooney actually witnesses the whole thing, but because I know.
So perfect.
Because of the contract, she's like, I'm not going to intervene. Like, I'm not protecting her. Like I'm protecting Potato Boy. So poor Potato Boy is grieving the death of his mom, a potato, and he decides that he needs to get away from Elmore for a little bit. And he's like, hey, like I'm not giving up on you. I just need to go out of town for a little bit with my like close friends and just figure out what's what. And I, like, I'm just really sad about my mom. And he goes to his in the woods cabin that, he used to visit with his parents. And it's just like this really idealistic cabin. And the pigeons are the messengers of all different things.
So a lot of these characters start to come in. You realize that they have a place, and then you start to develop within that story.
Yes, okay. Exactly.
And the pigeons are a theme in your
pigeons
work.
Are a theme since Venice, because there are lots of pigeons in Venice, and I thought that pigeons were the perfect anti-savior, which sounds really negative, but just like not waiting for someone to take care of things for you, to go ahead and DIY everything that you need and be independent and like figure things out.
Sounds like a pigeon.
And so it's the opposite of the dove, which is the savior.
Which aren't they the same bird anyways, right?
They are technically the same bird, yes, just a different variety.
Cool.
Rock dove is a pigeon's true name.
Oh, a rock dove. I never heard that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyhow, so the pigeons come and warn Potato Boy that something terrible is going to happen because, like Elmore's got all of these like conspirators that are like on like a property next to his like family home. And he's just like, oh, I'm going to get all these other creatures to like really rage against Potato Boy and take him down. And he goes out. There's a river that runs alongside the cabin. And in the river are these things called swim babies. And so they're just like little babies in like little cocoons.
Little wraps of
yeah, they're like in little
Yep.
cocoons, and they're just like floating down the river. Like,
I've seen those.
Yeah, yes. And so while he's looking at the babies, he's crying, thinking about how he was a baby once, and he used to hang out with his mom, and now he's really sad. And while that happened, he's crying all over himself, and potatoes have little buds on their chest, and the tears from Potato Boy hit the buds, and they started to make babies.
Oh my god.
And he's like, I know exactly what I need to do. This is exactly what I need to do. I need to jump in the river, get the babies to swim around me so that we can make these babies grow really fast, accelerate the
potato
growth of
babies.
The potato babies. And then we can have an enormous feast of potatoes with Elmore and all of his evil friends.
He can eat to its heart's
and
its
we
heart
can
content.
make so many. I can make unlimited potatoes.
He
He
all
doesn't
my
have to
babies.
eat me. He can eat all of the babies. Yeah. So it's sort of the opposite of, the whole Jesus story. But in a way, it's not. It's like giving up your child to eat is a little different than just murdering them. in front of everyone.
Dude, that is amazing. What a beautiful brain that is that you have to come up with all that, and then the art to go with it. The art is like, and as she's telling me the story, I'm literally playing her imagery in my head as if it's running through like a storybook in my head. It is so cool. Do you have any like long-term goals for projects like that, or where you see that kind of aspect of your art going in the future?
Well, my newest series is about the Girls Club.
Mm-hmm.
So the Girls Club is these 4 girls, and they figure out that they have like specific superpowers, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing fine on their own. You know, they're amazing also individually, but they figure out that if they come together, they can make real change happen. And it's about community, but it's also about the quirkiness of being a girl and, you know, like just being in charge of, you know, making change happen and what factors are required. It has a lot to do with, you know, just like making the most of what you've been given and combining it with other people that have been given gifts.
Great. It's
And
beautiful.
yeah. So I haven't written the story, but the 4 girls have names, they have backstories. And so it's more of a matter. And as the paintings, the more Girls Club paintings that I do, like I am aware of the story. Definitely.
That's so cool. So when like sounds to me like when you're saying like I'm writing the story or still writing the story, it sounds to me like what you're doing actually is like when you say writing, what you're doing is conceiving the imagery that tells the story,
Yes.
and then obviously the writing, whatever you can fill in after that. So
Yeah.
you're literally talking about. Because the way that your artwork reads is like you know those storybooks for you might have came across it as a mother, but you know where they have all these great beautiful pictures, but there's no words in it.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorite ones to
the
read to a
best.
kid, as you know, especially
They
when they're
make
younger.
them so much more interactive.
It really
which
does.
I love.
Yeah, and so you're kind of what's really cool is I can see you're kind of doing that with the imagery that you have. It's beautiful. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one series that I saw that I really liked of yours was the plant medicine series.
Yes, that's one of the newest. So the Girls Club and the medicinal plants are definitely the newest works that I've been doing. And I had this personal goal, and it was a big goal, but I was like, you know what, this is my personal goal. So many years ago, I went to Philadelphia to do an art show, and I had in my like list of things to do in my life to go to the Mutter Museum, which is a museum of scientific oddities, human. So it's the visit.
What was the name of it again?
Mutter.
M-U-T-R.
Umlaut U.
Oh,
T-T-E-R. Mutter.
Okay.
And it's a physician's museum, so it has like a lot of human artifacts essentially, but there's just some like crazy things. Like I don't know why I'm interested in it, but I'm so interested in it. I was just like obsessed with going, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll agree to this like crazy art fair because it's like in the same town as this amazing museum that I've always wanted to go to.
Cool.
And anyhow, so the highlights of the museum, in case you were interested, one of the things they have in their downstairs is an enormous filing cabinet. And it's like it looks like a book catalog. There's like binders, and then there's like little like card racks and things, and it's all things that humans have choked on.
Oh, the
that
actual
are sent to the
item.
museum. Yeah,
Oh,
and they're like in
that
those little
is
like petri
interesting.
dish things.
That is interesting.
And you can look at them.
Anything that stuck out?
Just the enormity of the collection, and you don't know if they died or not. This is just like a pure like archive.
That's kind of more exciting, actually. Like, oh, this person actually could have.
Well,
I
I'm
don't know if
sure
that's
that
exciting, but
I didn't look too much into it. I loved it and I thought it was amazing, and just like just the catalog in itself was amazing. The other thing that was great, which is more local even, so Chang and Ang were the original Siamese twins. They shared a liver.
yeah.
And one of them was an alcoholic. Such a like incredibly insane story.
Did you
They
guys hear-
also
did you
like
guys
married.
hear
They
that?
married twins and lived in North Carolina after they retired from the circus.
Do they share lungs and one's a chain smoker?
No, just the liver.
That'd be cool.
Anyway, after death, after they had lived their whole life, each one of them had like 8 kids. So you're like, what on earth? So they'd spend like 2 weeks.
This is not your characters.
No, this is
Okay.
true story, and it's
wow.
right here in North Carolina. not
Okay,
too
that
far
just
from
threw
here.
me for a whole nother.
Oh my
I'm
gosh!
thinking of another character.
I can't even wait for you to read more about this. They did a state of things on NPR about it. It's so good. It's so good.
You just flipped it off. I'm sitting here thinking you're telling me another character. That's so crazy.
No,
Go
this
ahead.
is just
This
an
is a real
amazing real story
Oh
about
my
Chang and
God.
Eng, the original Siamese twins.
Oh my God.
Circus twins.
Okay.
Anyway, so they were like shrewd business people, but they also married twins, which I think is amazing. And then they lived 2 weeks with each other's family. And they had like
that's
8 kids
creative.
each. So they're like having sex like every day
Right, okay.
with the other one there.
Wait, they
So-
each had eight. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter. However
yeah.
many kids
They had way,
them.
way more kids than you could possibly imagine.
Oh,
Yes.
my
And I bet you the
God.
relatives of those kids live in North Carolina. I swear there must be. If there's so many
they
of
have
them,
to
right?
be.
They have to.
Yeah, most definitely descendants would be. Yeah.
Anyhow.
Shout out
they're-
to the what are they? The
Chang and Eng.
Shout out to Chang and Eng descendants right now. If you guys
Yes.
want to contact Julie Armbruster, she'd be interested.
I
to hear
would
your
love
story.
to meet you.
She might even be able to like put it, translate it into a painting or something.
Absolutely.
Because that's what I thought you were telling me. At
Okay,
first.
so
But
at the
go ahead.
Muter Museum, they have the liver. And after
that-
they were dead, they tried to see if they could have been like separated without one of them dying.
Mhm.
Totally could have happened.
Oh, get out!
I know.
Oh, that's so crazy. What are the parameters? Like, how do they know? Like,
I don't know. I guess there was enough
of each side.
of each side, yeah, to be able to cut them apart so
That
they
is
could live
so
separately.
crazy. But you know, when you're born like that, it's probably really bizarre. Even the thought or concept of not,
Yeah.
you know, like being attached. That's
One of my
so
personal favorite
crazy.
movies, Stuck on You. Have you seen it?
Uh-uh.
Oh my god, it's the best.
Is it about Siamese
Yes,
twins?
it is.
Oh, okay.
Matt Damon is one of them.
Oh,
And
really?
The other one is Greg Kinnear.
I'm the worst movie person
Oh my
ever.
god, it's the best movie ever. It's so funny. Buddy comedies every time for me. Buddy comedies.
Buddy comedy, is that like a different from what is it? Romantic comedies? Is it different?
It is different because it's usually the same gender.
Oh, so like two bros.
They're
is what you're
friends.
saying. You're
They're
a bro
friends.
comedy.
Yeah.
Got you. That's awesome.
Yes,
So
totally funny. Okay, so my real story about the Muter Museum is I love the museum and I was obsessed with it, and I was like, I need to participate somehow. And I had a series of prints called Anatomical Gardens, where it was human organs that were being grown in a farm. And it was different organs, and they were just like super beautiful. I love medical illustration, so it was just like super beautiful, fantastical versions of human body parts on a plant. And I just, you know, it was more automatic drawing than like actual physical textbook, but they came out beautiful because medical illustration's really interesting and beautiful. And I asked them if I could put them in the gift shop, you know, like the prints or the cards
Smart.
or whatever.
Smart.
And they were like, yeah, that totally, you can totally do that. But I was like, listen, like, I want to make something specific for you guys. Like, this is something that I'm doing on my own, but I want to make something specific for your museum because I love the museum. I love what you guys have here. And they also have a medicinal garden. And the medicinal garden is human, you know, like plants for humans to feel better. And I decided that I wanted to illustrate these plants in their garden and then create something for the gift shop based
That's
on
awesome.
that. Yeah.
So that's how you came up with those.
Yes. So I
okay.
did, I think 4 of them. And then I submitted the idea to the person that runs the buyer. And they were like, totally.
That's
Well,
awesome.
you bring it on.
That's so cool.
Things have been on hold, obviously, with the shutdown, but
yeah.
I'm
That's
gonna have some
cool.
cards at the Muter Museum gift shop.
That's so cool. So there you go again. Another example of just go ahead and ask, and doesn't hurt to ask.
Doesn't hurt to ask,
Yeah.
and go for the gold. Like this was one of my dreams, and I was like, you know what? Even if this particular like version of it doesn't work, I will figure out a version that works.
That's awesome. Now, do you have any personal experience or find healing through any kind of herbology, plant medicine, and things like that?
So when my daughter was young, we had an amazing, not midwife, a nanny. She was a nanny,
Oh, okay.
and she was super into that sort of thing. And I had very little experience. My mom was a gardener, but she made, she grew flowers and
Vegetables.
Totally. That aspect of it was not big in my life at the time. And, you know, living here, I think it's definitely more open to, people are open-minded to that.
Yeah.
And, I think that, this nanny, she showed us a bunch of different cool things, like just in our yard, but also like, like this arnica stuff, and then the calendula, and then the
Yeah.
green salve, like all of these
Sure.
like amazing products that I can't live without now, but I had no idea about earlier.
That's so great. I wish I would have known you earlier in your motherhood, because there's this one homeopathic remedy that I gave my son. I think it's called Camellia, and it's for like
we
you
were
know that
we were
stuff?
dosing her like
Yes.
5 or 6 at a time.
Okay, that's
didn't work.
crazy. What's so crazy about
Unfortunately.
that stuff is that it's actually like the main ingredient is the belladonna flower, which is actually like a toxic thing, which I don't know how they have it in. I don't know how they have it in dosages.
I thought
that
it
are,
was
like,
chamomile.
safe. I think that might be one of the ingredients, but I know one of them for sure was belladonna, which I know kids used to make in high school. I grew up in Florida, and it would grow everywhere, and it was like a known like cheap high, quote unquote, for the kids, but it was like really toxic and would make you disoriented crazy. So
Yikes.
when I first heard that this was such a viable like homeopathic method, and then I'm reading the ingredients, I'm like, I'm about to give my kid belladonna. This was the stuff that kids were like getting high off in high school. Anyways, I trust the people who know homeopathy and everything. You know what I mean? Like I trust the method, and I've not really been one to ever find much relief from traditional like Western medicine. That goes for everything from like aspirin and Tylenol. It's never really seemed to work for me. I'm really blessed and fortunate that the plant stuff does seem to work for me. Maybe it's because I've been so long without using the other that I'm able to perceive the effects of the other one more. I don't know.
Nice.
But I feel very fortunate that I'm able to like perceive all that stuff. But anyways, I want to ask you, we're about to wrap up here. We've done easily over an hour. I want to ask you before we go, are there any influences, inspirations that you personally have that come to the top of your mind? It could be, of course, in the visual arts world, in the music world, or just in anything in general that kind of comes to your mind when you think of inspiration or the current things that you're interested in.
Oh, okay. Well, inspiration. I always have music playing when I am working, and the Pandora stations that I pick are always
tell us.
they're Jens Lekman, who played at the Mothlight not too long ago, amazingly
shout out
so.
to the Mothlight, which is going to be no longer.
I know, it's so sad.
I
It was the
know.
best thing I've ever seen. It's
Yeah.
just like the sweetest voice.
Boo that they're closing.
Boo that they're closing.
Yeah.
I'm very sad about it.
So what was the name of the musician?
Jens Lekman.
Okay. And what kind of music?
It is just sweet songs about, his perspective on things. I do really like narrative work
Okay.
in general. There's another singer. He goes by Walter Martin, and he used to be in the Walkmen, which was a really amazing rock band. But his music is just so adorable. I can't even stand it. I love listening to it. And Jens also love it.
So things that tell a pretty direct
Yeah,
story.
so like more popular people would be like Regina Spektor, just like
Okay.
beautiful songs that are like upbeat and that tell a story and have like a fun bounce to them.
Cool,
That's
cool.
what I draw and paint to.
So exactly. I was just going to say, it's cool that narrative aspect like goes into all those facets of your life. How about for visual arts? Is there anything that you really are enamored with, or maybe you remember growing up or super inspired by, or anything?
Well, when I was in school, my favorite artist was Keith Haring, and the reason that I loved his work is because that at the time in New York, nobody was showing that sort of work, and he's just
It was
like,
kind of one of the first street art kind of.
Yeah, he was like, me and my friends have got something else going on. Like, you at the gallery scene are so elitist, and that comes back to your the point about the multi platform, with the prints and everything. Like, I don't want my work to be elitist. I want people that like my art to have my art, and the original paintings obviously are one thing, but there are many, many ways. And the same thing with Keith Haring. Like, he was like, oh, you're like this cool sushi restaurant that I go to every day. How about I make a t-shirt for you? And then,
Yeah.
like, you can just like make some money because I love you.
That's
and
cool.
how about like I hook up my friends because I love them and I want to start my own scene. And the prevalent scene in New York at the time was abstract and, just like very conceptual. And he's like, you know what? I want to do this about people and about bodies and about movement. And I want it to be different than what has been done before. And I don't care that you don't like it. Like, I'm going to do it anyway. And me and my friends are going to have our own thing, and it totally worked.
Yeah, and it's still iconic and relevant to this day.
Iconic, for sure.
As soon as you hear that name, it's just like boop, that image of the outline of the person comes into your head, and it's super fun loving and awesome. I was hoping, and a small part of me was going to say like maybe like your early influences might be like a Dr. Seuss type or something, because I like so many times in looking at your work, I don't want to compare it to that, because it's not that. But just the narrative, like we're saying, the storybook aspects, the kind of whimsical fairy tale stuff.
Absolutely, I was read too heavily as a child.
Okay.
I was very lucky. My mom was she was an elementary teacher, and it's funny because before the shutdown of everything, I had an open studio at the Wedge, and it was just random people that decided they needed to look around. Mm-hmm. And you're starting from scratch with like literally every single person, and the most often comments would be like, "Oh my God, it's exactly like Where the Wild Things Are."
Oh, right.
The Simpsons.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
South Park.
Okay.
I got actually from somebody
yeah.
like an edit, like somebody was writing an article about me and compared me to South Park. I was like, dude, have you ever seen my work? That is so like completely insulting.
I know it's known as that it went down in history as like the cutout cartoon.
Yeah,
you know
so you're
what I mean?
like, so you're talking about art.
Yeah,
you've seen art, and mine is art. So
I know. I don't think that South Park is a proper comparison, and I don't think that necessarily Dr. Seuss or even Simpsons is but I think as humans who witness something that's so unique and stylized and specialized, the first thing that we want to do is
relate to it.
Yes,
which I love.
To it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of at grasping at straws to try to describe, and that's why this for anything, like when somebody asks you what kind of art you do, just you got to go look at it. So you just got to go look at it and check it out for yourself. Her name is Julie Armbruster. I am so happy that you were able to come and talk with me. That was really fun, really awesome. Mm-hmm. Before we let you go, we do have a segment rather on the show, and it's called "Do you want to press a button?"
Yes, always.
Here, you can press a button, and in the meantime, her Instagram handle is Julie Armbruster Art. Well, Julie_Armbruster_art. Anywhere else that we can keep up with your work?
I have JulieArmbruster.com, and I am represented by the coolest gallery in town, Horse and Hero.
Horse and Hero, shout out!
Love those guys.
Shout out to Horse and Hero. So all that stuff will be linked. You guys can check her artwork out. And what button are we going to press?
This one for sure.
How did Zen? That's part of my transition stuff. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming and chatting.
No problem.
Thank you guys for listening, and I hope y'all can check out the next one. Can't wait to hear your feedback. Love y'all. Peace. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it if you've gotten this far. It's been such a fun project for me to try to put this together, and I am very excited that I have something to show for it at this point in time. Please keep in mind that I am definitely open to any and all kinds of feedback. I want to hear from you. What did you think of our conversations? Who would you like to hear more from? What would you like us to talk about? All that kind of stuff. And please know that everything that we spoke about should be linked in our description. And if it's not, for whatever reason, or we talked about something that you would be more interested to, explore yourself, please message me, and I'd be happy to get that information for you as well. Anyways, that's all I got to say, guys. Thank you so much, and I really, really appreciate it. I'll see y'all for the next one.